Hollywood has lost a legend. Terence Stamp, the actor whose voice and presence commanded every screen he touched, has passed away at the age of 87. For more than 6 decades, Stamp captivated audiences, whether he was playing a chilling villain, a vulnerable hero, or a character that completely shattered expectations. His story isn't just about the roles he played, but about the life behind them, the boy from war-torn London who rose to become one of cinema's most unforgettable icons. And while the news of his passing is heartbreaking, his journey through fame, reinvention, and legacy remains one of the most remarkable in Hollywood history. Terence Stamp's story begins in London, where he was born in 1938. His childhood was anything but easy. Growing up during World War II meant living through the constant fear of bombings that shook the city. His father served in the Merchant Navy, often away for long stretches of time, leaving Stamp and his siblings to rely on their mother's strength. These early years shaped his resilience, but also sparked a sense of imagination that would never leave him. The spark truly ignited when his mother took him to see his very first film, Beau Geste, starring Gary Cooper. Stamp was only a toddler, not even 4 years old, but the image of Cooper as a soldier in the Foreign Legion left an imprint he carried for the rest of his life. It wasn't just a movie, it was a glimpse into a world larger than the one around him, a world where performance could transform reality. That memory would sit quietly inside him until years later it pushed him toward the stage and eventually the screen. But young Terence's path to stardom wasn't straightforward. In fact, his first leap into acting would come with both risk and reward, and it would change his life forever. By the early 1960s, Terence Stamp was ready to take a risk on his dream. After years of small satire and tagged roles and relentless auditions, he landed the part that would catapult him into the spotlight. In 1962, he starred in Billy Budd, playing a young sailor caught in a brutal moral dilemma. The performance was electrifying, so much so that it earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, a rare honor for someone in his very first major role. Almost overnight, Hollywood took notice. Stamp wasn't just another handsome face. There was an intensity in his eyes, a vulnerability behind the strength that made audiences lean in and pay attention. Directors saw him as a fresh force, someone who could stand toe-to-toe with the biggest names of the era. He became part of what critics called the angry young men of British cinema, alongside contemporaries like Michael Caine and Peter O'Toole. But fame can be unpredictable. Stamp's career soared quickly, yet the same intensity that made him a breakout star also made his journey uneven. For a time, the spotlight dimmed, and many wondered if his early promise would fade. What came next, however, would not only cement his place in pop culture but give him one of the most iconic villain roles of all time. When Hollywood needed a villain who could command fear without even raising his voice, they turned to Terence Stamp. In 1978, he stepped into the role that would define an entire generation's idea of cinematic evil, General Zod in Superman. With his piercing stare and calm, almost regal menace, Stamp turned the character into something unforgettable. By the time Superman 2 hit theaters in 1980, his chilling demand, "Kneel before Zod," was etched permanently into pop culture history. But his villainous streak didn't stop there. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Stamp became the go-to actor for characters with a dangerous edge. He appeared in Wall Street, holding his own alongside Michael Douglas, and later popped up in T.M. Burton's Haunted Mansion. His performances carried a signature style, controlled, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. Still, what made Stamp stand out wasn't just his ability to terrify. He had a rare talent for making villains strangely compelling, even sympathetic. You didn't just watch General Zod, you believed in his presence. And while many actors risk being trapped by one famous role, Stamp would soon prove he had the courage to completely shatter expectations. Just when the world thought they had Terence Stamp figured out, he flipped the script. In 1994, he took on a role that shocked fans and critics alike: Bernadette, a transgender woman in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. For an actor who had built his reputation on commanding villains, this was a complete transformation. And it worked. Stamp brought dignity, vulnerability, and sharp wit to the character, earning widespread praise and proving he was far more than the cold antagonist audiences had come to expect. The role became a cult classic, showing a softer, more complex side of Stamp's talent. It also revealed something deeper. his willingness to take risks, to challenge himself rather than coast on the legacy of General Zod. For an actor already decades into his career, Priscilla wasn't just a surprising choice. It was a statement that he refused to be boxed in. This reinvention kept him relevant across generations. Fans who knew him from Superman were reintroduced to a completely different artist, while younger audiences discovered him for the very first time. And beyond the screen, Stamp's creative energy wasn't slowing down, because acting wasn't the only way he left his mark. Away from the cameras, Terence Stamp found another outlet for his voice: writing. He published memoirs that peeled back the layers of his life, from the struggles of his early years to the lessons he learned in Hollywood. But he didn't stop there. MP also dove into philosophy and spirituality, producing thoughtful works that revealed a man constantly searching for meaning beyond fame. Fans who picked up his books often described them as surprising, honest, reflective, and just as captivating as his screen presence. This quieter side of Stamp showed how much more there was to him than the iconic characters he played. He wasn't simply an actor chasing roles. He was a thinker, someone who wanted to understand life on a deeper level and share that with the world. When news of his passing broke, his family described him as leaving behind an extraordinary body of work, both as an actor and as a writer. And they were right. Few actors managed to touch audiences across such a wide spectrum, terrifying them as villains, moving them with vulnerability, and challenging them with his words. Terence Stamp did all of that, and more. But even as the tributes pour in, his story doesn't end here, because his legacy isn't just about what he accomplished. It's about how his work will continue to inspire long after he's gone. Terence Stamp's passing marks the end of an era, but not the end of his influence. From the war-torn streets of London to the heights of Hollywood, he carved out a career that defied limits. He could make you fear him as General Zod, move you to tears in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and surprise you with the wisdom of his writing. Few actors manage to stay relevant across so many decades, and even fewer leave behind such a wide-ranging legacy. As fans around the world remember him, one thing is clear: Terence Stamp's presence will never truly fade. His characters, his words, and his fearless choices live on, continuing to inspire those who discover his work for the first time and those who have loved him for years. So now the question is yours. Which of Terence Stamp's unforgettable roles stays with you the most? Are your memories and tributes in the comments below? Because celebrating a legend means keeping his story alive.